Yo, what's poppin'? So, starting off the series of the round one matchups, um, I had this one out yesterday, but I thought that the winner of this would play the Shock, but I didn't know that the people with that got a bye. So, Shock, Glad, Soul, and Fuel get to choose their opponent, with Fuel getting like whoever's left over. So if you saw that one, just ignore it. Shout out to Basey Bird or Base Bird. I don't know how you want to call your name, but shout out to him for telling me in the comments. And then I just unlisted the video. So here's this one. Okay, so London, good seed, 8 points with an 8-4 record. Because they don't have 9 points because they did not make the kickoff clash last stage. Uh, +6 map differential against the Atlanta Reign, sixth overall in the seeding in NA. 8 points with a 7-5 record and a +7 map differential. Extra point, of course, coming from their kickoff clash tournament. So London traditionally have beat Atlanta in the regular season. Uh, so we see stage one starting at the bottom with Shock was their first match. They lose to Shock 3-0, beat Van 3-0, beat Boston 3-1, Houston 3-0, beats them. Holy, I can't speak. Gladiators win 3-1, and then they beat Atlanta 3-2 in an upset. And then they don't get the tournament. And in stage two, they go 5-1. They beat Florida 3-2, Toronto 3-1, New York 3-0, Paris 3-0, Washington 3-2, and lose to Dallas 3-1. So we can see they didn't have the easiest time in the second stage, or they had an easy time in the second stage. The best person they played was Dallas, and the best person they beat was Florida. So not that easy, or pretty easy. And stage one they had a pretty tough matchup because they played the top three teams in the region, top four probably with Houston. Maybe not at that time, but so yeah. And then we look over to Atlanta. We see stage one, 3-3. They go Flash turning 2-2, and at stage two they go 4-2. So they beat it Florida 3-1, New York 3-0, lose to Washington 3-0, beat Vancouver 3-0, lose to London 3-2, and lose to Gladiators 3-0. Then in the tournament, they beat Florida 3-1. They beat Shock in the upper bracket 3-1, which is a pretty big upset. Then they lose to Gladiators 3-0 to go to lower bracket, and then they lose to Dallas 3-1 to get kicked out of the tournament. Then comes stage two, beat Boston 3-2, beat Dallas 3-0, beat Vancouver 3-1, lose to Shock 3-1, lose to Houston in a spectacular fashion with the C9 3-2, and then beat Paris 3-0. So between these two teams, history would say London win because of multiple reasons, because they have won in the past, and also because Atlanta has still continued to struggle with the rush, even against other teams. So you know, it should be an Atlanta loss probably because of the matchup, but it's playoff Atlanta, which is just a different team. We've seen it time and time again. That Atlanta performs well in tournaments, right? All the way back to to season three Shock, I believe. Um, it's hard, like because we saw them in the last tournament. They beat the Shock. Maybe you can just say they just have the Shock's number, but even then they were the second place team in the playoffs last season. Uh, they're just a playoff performing team, and with Kion as such a menace on the Sojourn, it's hard to really doubt him and his capabilities. So it's just a matter of how much are you going to read into Atlanta don't know how to beat Rush. But then there's also the thing that there are the losers pick maps. Um, I think that it doesn't matter as much because of how good so many maps are. Like if we look at the map, what do we call it? Like the map pool. Um, there's a lot of good rush. Like Escort, there's no Escort map that London would be upset of playing. Maybe Sugar Royale, but even then, Poco has been able to step in and play when he needs to on that point. And you like Ike, and you look at Hybrid, Ike, Kings Row and Midtown are all possible rush maps, and you have both push maps, which are rush maps, and all the control maps for the most part. But London gets that first pick anyway, I believe. Um, so I think I think I'm leaning to London just because Atlanta, unless they figure out how to beat the rush, which they just haven't been able to. Uh, London should be able to come out on top here. However, I think Atlanta will probably go deeper in the tournament because I like let's say they do go against Shock, for example. Let's say Shock chooses the winner of this game. I like Atlanta's odds of beating the Shock much more than London, and I think Atlanta will go further, but I just think London will have this specific matchup. Um, we'll see though. We'll see. It's pretty up in the air. I think like it isn't, but it is because I'm not just gonna count out Atlanta. It's so hard to just count out Atlanta for no reason. I'm not gonna talk about who I think will pick these teams. I think I'm not gonna talk about that. Well, I'll do that later on Saturday. I plan on doing my bracket, uh, so we'll see what happens then. But for right now, I'm leaning towards London on this specific win, but I would not be terribly surprised if Atlanta come out on top. But Atlanta's strength normally is not their coaching staff and figuring out how to counter compositions, right? That's not how they've been winning their matches. They've been winning because Kai is just a god. The backline's super strong. Hawk is very flexible, and Venom is good for a control map most of the time anyway. So not a lot of faith in Atlanta. I'm picking London to win this one, I think. Let me know your thoughts down below. Comment. I already said that. Like this video if you like it. Subscribe for more daily RT content. And thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a good one.